Hey, hope everybody's having a great weekend. Westplex Radio, Steve Casper in the studio with my very special program we like to bring you on weekends here. It is What About Nutrition, the show that explores the link between nutrition and optimum health and asks the overlooked question many, many times, which is, what about nutrition? Well, lots of information coming your way, so stay right there. You know, every day there's more scientific evidence and research regarding the critical importance of nutrition for the promotion of optimum health in you, your family, and your loved ones. On What About Nutrition, this very program you're listening to right now will focus on dietary supplements, herbs, vitamins, and homeopathic remedies and how they relate to you and your family. We'll also discuss diet, exercise, and other aspects of living a healthy lifestyle going on right now, of course, in this very busy time we're living in. Your host is David Gall, owner of O'Fallon Nutrition and a graduate of Washington University and Huntington College of Health Sciences Comprehensive Nutrition Program. And I'm Steve Casper at Westplex Radio. Remember, always consult your health care practitioner before beginning any new supplements or other changes to your lifestyle. The purpose of the show is to inform, educate, and entertain, not necessarily to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. And good morning to you, David Gall, Mr. Nutrition. How you doing?
Oh, I am doing awesome, Steve. I'm really enjoying this nice, beautiful morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Great weekend in St. Charles. They have the Oktoberfest going on down at Frontier Park. But anyway, we're really excited to be here. And, a few weeks ago, actually several weeks ago, we did a show about kids and back to school and things like that. And I understand today our subject is somewhat related.
It is related. Today we're going to talk about, sensible basics for a healthy kid's immune system. A couple of weeks ago, Steve, I had the opportunity to speak to a MOPS group, Mothers of Preschoolers, out in Lake St. Louis.
Yep.
I really had a blast doing it and had a lot of really intelligent, very friendly moms there. And this was the topic that they chose to do. And I kind of like the angle that they put on it because not all of these mothers are familiar with nutritional supplements and things like that. So we titled it, Sensible methods of improving a child's immune system. We don't, have to go crazy and get into all this, weird stuff, in order to do this. There's some basics and some basic ideas regarding diet and things of that nature that have a tremendous impact. So what I'd like to start with is this concept about sugar. And I found it was interesting. A lot of folks at this meeting that I went to weren't aware of this. So, Steve, you've probably heard, and we've talked about it, that sugar is known to be an immune system suppressant.
Yep.
Okay. So, real quickly, I just want to give everybody a little idea of how dramatic that is. So, we all know about Mary Poppins, and a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what effect does sugar have on white blood cells, which are known as the warriors of the immune system?
I have no idea.
Okay. So, these white blood cells, their job is to deal with the microorganisms that give us infections. There are warriors that help to kill those things. And an interesting study that was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed how much the white blood cells, actually a type called the neutrophils, showed how much those which were drawn from test subjects, how many bacteria those were able to kill when the person was not exposed to sugar. And basically, they expose the immune system cells to the bacteria Staphylococcus, so staph. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of the test, each white blood cell, each neutrophil, was able to ingest and destroy an average of 14 bacteria. Okay? So in the little Petri dish, these little white blood cells were able to kill 14 bacteria. All right? So right after that, they exposed these same folks to sugar. So after the folks drank a sugar-containing beverage, each person's cells were only able to gobble up one bacteria before dying instead of 14.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
That is unbelievable statistics.
Yes.
I mean, that's really something.
And this is from an actual study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And so that effect lasted for 5 hours. So we had 5 hours of immune suppression, and that was just from a sugar-containing beverage, something like a soda or even juice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks are under the impression that juice is, very, very healthy for us. And what I'm talking about right now is bottled juice that has already been pasteurized, fruit juice. But the issue that they often forget is that juice is very, very high in sugar. And of course, soda is high in sugar, and it's even worse. And people will say, well, what about the vitamin C that's in something like orange juice? And it's true that there is some benefit from that vitamin C. However, in nature, we would consume an actual orange. Cavemen did not really have the ability to juice oranges. And if they did, they would have been raw, unpasteurized oranges, which is a whole different story. So when we expose ourselves to an entire glass of juice, that's the equivalent of like 4 or 5 oranges worth of juice. And of course, in nature, if you eat 4 or 5 oranges, it tends to result in diarrhea. So it kind of indicates like maybe that's overload for us. So I just want everybody to be aware of that sugar suppresses the immune system for up to 5 hours. And in this particular study, the white blood cells went from being able to kill and destroy 14 bacteria per neutrophil per white blood cell all the way down to 1. So really, really a huge impact. So one basic thing that we can do to improve kids' immune system health is feed them less sugar, and in particular, watch for these sugar-containing beverages because I really see those overdone. I see a lot of toddlers running around with bottles filled with juice or juice beverages like High C or Capri Sun, and really I cringe when I see that because I'm thinking
Sunny
about,
D.
Yep, what is it doing to their immune system?
I got a quick story to tell you.
Sure.
My father actually, it kicked his, when he was about 75 years old, he's 90 now, so this was 15, 16 years ago, maybe more than that. But anyway, kicked his diabetes in because he was staying at a hotel in this area here because he's from Indiana, and he was drinking a lot of orange juice. Orange juice with a lot of sugar in it.
Sure.
And he was drinking it, and he thought he was drinking healthy. I'm drinking orange juice.
Of course, right.
But that's what he was drinking, and he was drinking a lot, and then that made, diabetes kicking in makes you thirsty. And the doctor said that's what triggered the diabetes.
Oh, of course. And remember, Steve, we've done these shows on blood sugar and hypoglycemia. And, of course, these juices, we can raise blood sugar, and that increases insulin resistance.
Right.
And type 2 diabetes is just really bad insulin resistance.
Yes.
So what a great story. It
Yeah,
really makes perfect sense.
And I think maybe that could help save somebody right there, that story. I mean,
totally.
The more we talk about sugar, the more we talk about the whole different show is sugar and cancer. But
right.
the more we talk about sugar, and we talked about carbohydrates last week.
Exactly.
The more we talk about sugar, the more it becomes more and more evil in my mind.
It's one of the scourges of our society. And it's not that we shouldn't have carbohydrate, but our diets are really biased towards excessive amounts of carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are the cheapest to manufacture foods. That's why we are seeing all these commercials for cereals and bread. And the government is even lobbied by these industries to tell people in the food pyramid that they need to eat, it used to be 9 to 11 servings of bread a day. Well, from my perspective, that's a great way to develop diabetes.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And one more thing, and I'm sorry to get you off track here.
Not a problem.
But talking about sugar and all this diabetes and everything like that, we have a very, very fat society. We're
right.
Very, very overweight, and the energy levels go down when your carbs go up. And we talk about the insulin levels in your body and your blood and all that. So,
and we're seeing all these obese children now. And of course, I was a little overweight as a kid, and that probably had a lot to do with excessive carbohydrate consumption then as well. But it's even worse today. And one of the best things we can do for these children is try to pull the excess sugar out of their diet and really go back to drinking water.
The thing, and one more point that I wanted to make. I'm in anthropology. I went to Purdue University and Indiana University, but I was in graduate school in anthropology.
Really?
So, right, you didn't know that, did you? But one of the things and I've never been a professor. I've never gone on any digs or anything because I always had the background in radio and knew that was going to be my main thing. But I was very interested in anthropology.
Yes.
So one of the things that comes to mind is in hunter and gatherer society, what sugar did you really eat? So our bodies, for from the genesis of humankind to where we were maybe 200 years ago, there wasn't that much sugar your body wasn't made to take all the sugar.
Oh my goodness, Steve! I think I just fell in love with you.
Yeah, thank you. You too. We'll see you guys. Check, please.
Oh, we're gonna get out of here.
Check, please.
Okay, I have to riff on this subject a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think, as you're aware, but I don't know if I told you.
Somebody just tuned in.
My undergraduate degree, is in anthropology as well.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if we ever talked about this.
Holy smoke.
Yes, from WashU, and they have a great anthropology department. And a lot of my nutrition knowledge is based on my knowledge of the subject of anthropology, which studies human beings and ancient societies, et cetera. And, Steve, you're totally on the money. ancient humans, whether they were ancient humans from not very long ago, like 150 years ago, or whether we're talking 40,000 years ago, had very little access to sugar.
Right.
And in my program, one of the things that we discussed, and I'm sure they got into this in yours, is the time when we invented agriculture.
Yep.
And this is important because when we invented agriculture, we started growing grain.
Yep.
And as far as my education went, they think that started about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, area around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which is now Iraq, Egypt, etc. And that is when agriculture started, where we had big enough societies that needed to farm instead of being hunter-gatherers. And of course, the hunter-gatherers were eating meat and anything they could gather, which used to be nuts,
Berries.
seeds, berries, low sugar, a little bit of carbohydrate, but not a lot of grain, not a lot of sugar. The only sugar they had access to would have been beehives, for example.
Yeah.
And as we all know, bees don't like to have their honey taken from their hive.
Nope.
So honey from a beehive was typically something that was like a rare treat.
Yes.
And so the human body is just not built from an anthropological perspective to tolerate a lot of sugar.
Right.
Something I always read, and we've been talking about this book, The Diet Cure, so much lately. Julia Ross describes the history of sugar, and refined white sugar didn't really appear until the late Middle Ages, around the 1600s in Europe. It was a refined white powder that came from the New World. To them, it wasn't much different than something like cocaine or something along those lines.
Right. It was a big trade thing. Oh my God, we got
Exactly.
gold, we got sugar.
Exactly, and it was only the royalty that got it at first.
Yeah.
And they saw all these symptoms that people would develop when they ate it, just like any other drug. And it was known, actually, Julia Ross says, in France during that time as quote-unquote crack, was
Yeah.
a French word for it. So we have to wrap up this segment, but that is the issue about sugar. It's not something that the human body is really built to tolerate large amounts of, particularly when you start looking at human history throughout the ages.
And we'll come back with part 2 of today's show. It's about immune system and kids, and as we head towards flu season, and when the kids come home with all these sniffles and stuff. And we're talking, of course, kids. You give kids sugar, what do? They bounce off the walls. We'll be back. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to What About Nutrition? Steve Casper with Mr. Nutrition, David Gall of O'Fallon Nutrition, OFallonNutrition.com. We'll be right back.